Hello, peeps and creeps, and welcome to Fright Club. I'm Gav, he's Danny, and this is another episode of Monday Night Frights. A very special episode because this is our first episode of season 2. Danny, we're back for another season.
We are back for more spoopiness.
We are indeed. We did what, 15 episodes in the first season? Well, 13 technically, and then 2 bonus episodes, and then
2 bonus ones. Yeah,
we took a 4-week break there just to recharge the batteries and to chill out and get shit sorted.
Yeah,
and we're back again with season 2, so we're really excited to be back. We have now moved to YouTube. We've said farewell to Instagram because it's shite. We're back. We're now on YouTube now, so we're really excited about that. I just wanted to, before we even crack on with the episode, just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's been watching the episodes every week. For anyone who's subscribed already to the YouTube channel, we love you. If you haven't, please subscribe to us, and feel free to watch any of the episodes from season 1. Just little callback there to season 1. What was your favourite episode, Danny, that we did, do you think?
I mean, obviously, I love talking about Old Boy. Old Boy is one of my film faves, so obviously that was my favourite to talk about. But in terms of actual favourite, like I came away from it pure buzzing, was our Q&As, both with Jed and Emma, and then with Dee Wallace. You know that after, like, well, I mean, we chatted about it for ages after we did them, and then even after that, I was still like, wow, we just interviewed some like proper legit like horror, like, you know, up and coming horror icons and a genuine Scream Queen horror legend, which was just, you know, and even like, yes, she's a horror legend, but for me it was, you know, being Elliot's ma that really, I was just like, oh my goodness, and hearing her say those lovely things about Steven Spielberg and all just blew me away. So yeah, definitely I think it was our Q&As that definitely for me.
Mama D.
Mama D.
Wee
what
Mama.
about you? What was your
obviously
your highlights?
Yeah, the 2 bonus episodes at the end of season 1 with Jed and Emma from host, and then the Q&A with Dee, who's, as you said, you know, you've said it all there, she's an absolute screen legend, horror icon, and so yeah, those 2 were very special, really good episodes. I'm really glad that we got to do them because we were we're a bit nervous. Let's just say we were a wee bit nervous before those episodes, but I think they came out really well.
It came out, you know, the best thing that came out the bestest though, our clues for Dee Wallace.
Oh my god,
our
amazing!
Our hints at Dee Wallace.
I know.
Chuckle.
That was class. What was it? You'll be howling.
Leave you howling. She's an awful good cracker.
You'll have to phone home and tell your family. Aye, amazing. We're also comedians on the side, so if you want to book us for a comedy show,
I wish.
You know, whatever.
I wish.
But yeah, I actually really enjoyed the Darkman episode.
Oh yeah, Darkman.
Actually, I got a chance to when I was sorting the YouTube channel, like, to flick through some of the episodes, and the Darkman one was one that I kind of pretty much watched almost the whole way through again, because I was like, we had really good crack talking about Darkman.
We had such a good laugh talking about Darkman.
I know.
Oh, good.
But
I love going. Go onto the YouTube channel and just kind of see what ones are kind of picking up the most popularity.
Yeah,
it's kind of good to see that a lot of the ones that I think we probably enjoyed a lot are the same ones that seem to be picking up the most views. I think it's a sign of good taste in our audience. You know.
Also, I mean, obviously the first few episodes were a bit ropey in terms of
we were finding our feet.
We were finding our feet, and I think halfway through the first season we really started to relax a bit and just do what we think that we do best, is just talk shit and just ganch away about horror films.
Well good ganch about.
Oh, well good ganch, boys.
Ganch about gore.
I know. No, definitely, yeah. And the Old Boy one was a good one. It's been getting a lot of views. It's been getting decent views, and I think the Darkman one is hilarious as well. So, and it's always good to talk about The Simpsons as well, because that's that's the ones that we're just like, fuck. We didn't really do much research. We were just like, oh, we'll just ganch about The Simpsons. Like,
we just kind of reminisce. I feel like those ones are just real nice nostalgia pieces. You know, we kind of reflect on the episodes of TV we watched as Waynes, you know, every Halloween. But again, we'll get at least 2 or 3 more episodes out of The Simpsons this series anyway.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, we've definitely got that on the cards, and we'll be dropping some hints about some episodes that we'll be doing for this season. But also we want to hear from you. If you've got any suggestions about any films or anything really that you want us to chat about in season 2, then please leave us some comments.
Pop them down
below, or give us a shout out on our Twitter at the Fright Club NI or Instagram at the Fright Club NI. But yeah, so we'll crack on with this week's episode. We're a few weeks past Halloween, but this is a film that I really wanted to talk about at the end of season 1, and we didn't get time to talk about it. It's what I think is one of the best Halloween films out there, outside of the Halloween franchise anyway. We're going to be talking about Michael Dougherty's Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat.
Trick or Treat.
Trick or Treat.
Trick or Treat, mate.
I think it's a class Halloween anthology movie set on Halloween night and following a group of friends and different stories. There's 4 stories in total that we follow on Halloween night, and they all interconnect with each other. And I think it's a great movie. But this is the first time you've actually watched it.
It's the very first time I had seen it. I'd not seen it before. I enjoy like anthology sort of movies and series. You know, I find that this here is very much in the vein of like Creepshow and Tales from the Crypt and all, which is an element I really enjoyed of it. But
I would say, just to cut you off there real quickly, it's not your typical anthology where it's different segments that don't connect. This one's more
flow nicely together.
They flow nicely. Yeah. It's more of a Pulp Fiction stroke Love Actually type movie for Halloween.
That's a pretty good way to describe it. Halloween's Love Actually.
I know, I was thinking about it earlier. I was like, it's not actually a proper anthology, you know, like a typical anthology where all the segments are different and then there's a connection. This literally, all the stories do connect as the film progresses, and there's no sort of cut-off point for each story.
Kind of see a flow, and we see, again, as you say, it's got that Pulp Fiction element in that we kind of see stuff that happens earlier without knowing it happened earlier until we see, like, maybe the couple from the start go walking by, or, you know, sometimes it'll say, like, earlier that evening or something, you know? But the one thing that I think then kind of ends the story for each one, because then ultimately it ends with his story, is Sam. But we'll get into that as we go on. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I'd maybe say that, you know, it definitely, you could tell where it sort of came from with the likes of Tales from the Crypt and that sort of thing. It's very much, I'd say, an homage to Creepshow and Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, it's not scary. It's not like a real over the top horror movie. It's I wouldn't say it's horror comedy either, but it is a lot of fun. Yeah, to me, it's the perfect kind of Halloween popcorn type movie, and
it's absolute sweet. Like, it's pure sugar. Like, it's absolute sugar.
I love seeing all the pumpkins and all the Halloween shit that was on in films. I just love the celebration of Halloween, and I love that how much effort was put into this to make it. But all the stories, whenever they connect, and it might just be little things here and there where you see a character walking past in the background, or something happens where you're like, oh, that's what happened in that other story at this part. You know, I just love all that shit. And this is like, I think this is the 4th time that I've maybe watched it. And I was taking a few notes, but I did discover a couple of things that I'd never noticed before. And I love that this film is layered like that, where, you know, if you rewatch this, you'll discover things that you didn't notice the first time around from other stories. And I just love that in this movie. But yeah, great movie. But we'll get cracking on and chatting about each story now. Was written and directed by Michael Dougherty. I think that's how you pronounce his name. But this is very much a passion project of his. It was his first feature film that he made, and it was based on a short film that he made way back in 1996 called Season's Greetings, which I actually haven't watched yet. But
it's on Netflix, I think, is it not?
No, I don't think it is. I think it's on YouTube. I could be wrong. Maybe it is on Netflix, but it's a short film, and that one was basically the Sam story. That's where Sam came from. Okay. So obviously he expanded that story a little bit with one of the stories in this film. But yeah, passion project. He's been trying to get it made ever since he made that short film in 1996. It was released in 2007 on selected cinemas and theaters, but it didn't get much hype or notice until it was released on home video in 2009. And then people started picking up, and it was getting loads of hype, and people started looking at this character Sam and going, he's actually becoming like a sort of modern day Halloween icon.
Like, I hadn't seen Trick or Treat before, but I'd seen Sam. I'd seen like a wee character with the kind of burlap sack head, and then obviously the kind of pumpkin head reveal and stuff. But yeah, he's slowly becoming a part of that kind of horror icon list.
Definitely, yeah. I think as well, after it was released on video, they started releasing like figures and stuff, and they made a comic. They made a comic as well. Obviously, the title intro for the film is very inspired by comic books. I mean, it is a comic book panel type thing.
Yeah.
And Michael Dougherty must be a massive comic book fan, but they did make comic. Have you seen? I think you haven't seen any of the comics.
No, I'm not seeing any of the Trick or Treat comics, but again, that kind of gave me the creep show vibes. You know, the way
the panels and all.
He's always got the comics open and stuff, and all the stories lead in through a comic and that. So yeah, I definitely was getting those vibes. But I love that. I love when like an anthology type thing opens with that kind of comic booky intro.
I know,
but because I love my comic books.
You do, yes. I have a couple of shelves down here and a couple of shelves downstairs as well, with a lot of comic books that I haven't read in a while. So we'll get to it, man. We've no fucking time always. Between doing this and between working and between sitting around in arses.
We're busy boys.
Busy boys. But anyway, yeah. So great cast as well. Like couple of decent names, couple of kind of journeyman type actors in there. And Brian Cox, obviously, as the grumpy old man that you see at the beginning, and then obviously his stories at the end. He's fucking brilliant in everything that he's in.
It's his prosthetic nose. Like, it's very obvious that he's kind of got prosthetics on, but I think that adds to the charm of the film in a way, because it is meant to be like over the top, like costumey almost, which I think is kind of plays around with the idea of you know, it's Halloween, so things are made up, but also I think it kind of is playing on like old horror movies where it was kind of rubbery looking. You know, characters would have looked rubbery. So I kind of appreciate that. I thought that was quite nice and a nice aesthetic to the whole thing, considering how much, you know, his fake nose looks rubbery as hell, but then you see Sam and you're like, look at the detail that's gone into this little weirdo.
Oh man, that Sam mask or prosthetic, whatever.
The wee puppet head, the way his like wee lips move and the wee eyes twitch. I love it. Stuff fantastic.
I love it so much. Brian Cox, obviously, fucking amazing actor. He was supposed to appear at the Emerald Isle Comic Con a couple of years ago.
That's right.
Before it got cancelled, I was really looking forward to meeting him.
Would have been class.
I got cancelled, unfortunately, but yeah, he's one of the best actors out there. Very underrated, I think. He doesn't really get enough credit. I think maybe now in his later age, he's getting more credit for his fantastic acting, but definitely one of the better actors out there working today. Another journeyman type actor who I think's fucking amazing is Dylan Baker, who plays the principal
Dag character. Yeah, he is. He's one of those kind of real understated. Like you never really see him as like a main character very often. He normally is playing like a foil or whatever, second fiddle, but he's always fantastic in whatever he does.
Yeah, he's a lot of the time he's a supporting cast, or you know, he's the next door neighbor or somebody's parent or something like this. But have you ever seen the movie Happiness?
No.
Right, go and watch it. Right, I'm not telling you anything about it, but I think that was the movie that I first saw him in, or that I can remember first seeing him in. And every time I see him now, I'm like, oh, Dylan Baker. Have you ever seen Happiness? You know, I always say to people, because his performance in Happiness is unreal, and apparently that's how he got this role, because it was obviously the character was already written, but whenever it was being cast, the script I think changed slightly because it was written with Dylan Baker in mind, and because of his role that he played in Happiness, and there is a lot of similarities to his role in this. But yeah, go and watch it. I'll not say anything more about it.
I was going to say you've sold me on it. I'll have to check it out.
It's a surprise. Don't read anything about it. Just go and watch it. Anybody who's watched it, leave your comments in below. But don't spoil it for Danny. Danny, you go ahead and watch it.
I will watch it. I will put it on. It's on my list already. Yeah. It's on my ever-growing watch list.
It's not a horror movie, but yeah, it's quite a horrific role that he plays in that. And then one of the other bigger names in it is Anna Paquin, who plays one of the hot girls from the sort of first segment, I suppose you could say. It's not really a segment, but she's one of the 4 girls at the start who are going to the party, and they're going in and they're getting changed and they're trying on their costumes. And then obviously they go to the party at the end, and you find out, what happens. But she's the virgin of the four. She's the only one that hasn't.
She's Suki in True Blood, isn't she?
She is, of course she is. Yeah, yes, that's right.
I was watching, I was like, hey, her.
Yep. She is indeed. But yeah, brilliant. We'll go through each story rather than go through the whole movie. We'll go through each story and say what we like about it, and every story in it has surprises and twists.
Oh yeah,
that's the whole point.
The twists are great. I really enjoyed when we kind of got, because some of them you can kind of see coming, but then other ones, like the ones with the four girls, I didn't actually see that coming at first.
No, really, no,
because of the kind of the lead in before that. I thought they were witches. Is what the angle was, but then obviously her costume. As soon as you kind of twig on with her costume, you're like, fuck, of course.
Yeah. There's a lot of little hints before the reveal scene of what happens. Little tiny things that
really subtle. So subtle.
And there's a part in it where they talk about huffing and puffing and stuff, and obviously she's wearing a Red Riding Hood outfit as well.
Yeah.
And there's just so many little things that you'll notice if you watch it again. You'll be like, how could you not know that they're werewolves? You know what I mean? It's mad. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't seen the movie, like, we're gonna, obviously this is massive,
we're spoiling it.
massive spoilers. I mean, the movie's been out for ages anyway, so you wouldn't really be watching this had you not seen the movie. So but yeah, so basically, the opening titles is the comic book, and then you get that little kind of opening scene where there's the guy and the girl, and they're coming home from the party, and that's actually at the end, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's obviously, so we kind of get, they're coming home from a party. She goes to blow the jack-o'-lantern out, and he says, "Don't, it's against tradition." And it's like, what are they going to do? And does it anyway. And then he goes to go off inside, and they're obviously both drunk, but she's like, "I want to take all the Halloween decorations down." And he's like, "Leave it till the morning. Come on, let's go get jiggy." And she's like,
"Let's go put a porno on."
Yeah, exactly. Go put on the tape. And
go put on the videotape.
The thing I found about that, right, was I was kind of like, oh, they're going to put on like one of their own intimate tapes. I was kind of like, okay, fair enough. Like you're a couple, you've probably been together, you might have stuff like that. Yeah. But then when it cuts to him anyway, it's just like some random porno tape.
Yeah, like, I was like generic fucking porno, like really big blonde bimbo.
Exactly. Yeah. I was just like, okay, whatever's your thing, guys. But yeah, and then obviously she's taking down all the decorations because her mum's coming over the next day. That was it. Her mum's coming the next day, and she doesn't want the place to look like a horror show.
Yeah. Also, fucking those decorations, man. Fair play. Like, they were awesome.
They're class, and how simple they are as well. The fact that, when she pulls the sheet off, you kind of expect a body to be under it or something, but it's just like sticks. Like broom shafts with like gloves on them and like pillow heads, which I thought, I was like, that's a clever idea for a front yard. But yeah, she's taking them down, and then she gets attacked by an unseen assailant. We don't get to see Sam just yet, but we do get to see his deadly lollipop as it slashes her throat.
Yes, we do.
So yeah, and then that's the lead in, then was it the husband's fault? He's passed out on the bed while his porno's playing, and then he wakes up and goes out to look for her, and ends up finding, there's like arms and legs hanging from the tree, but it's very obvious that some of them are now hers. And then he lifts up, or one of the bodies that we said about the sheep bodies, lights up, and he goes to lift up, and it's her head and a bit of her body underneath, and he lets out a big scream, and then it goes in. That's when the title sequence kicks in.
Yeah, that's when the title. It's a big spooky scream. Yeah, so
big spooky scream into the comic book title sequence, which kind of, the title sequence kind of gives away the film. If you kind of, everything, a lot of the key moments are done in the comic art style. So a lot of it's kind of already given to the audience before the film starts, like little snippets.
Right enough, I didn't really notice that.
A lot. There's quite a few of the sort of key scenes are done in comic book panels, and that's flashing at. But again, it kind of moves that quickly that you almost kind of don't pick up on it.
Yeah.
And then
I love the music as well, because the music was
fantastic.
Like, it was very Psycho-esque, wasn't it? It was like
lots of heavy string.
Yeah. But throwback to Psycho, as most horror films do.
Always.
There's always some sort of throwback.
Hitchcock influence.
You gotta have fucking Bernard Herrmann. But then we get back to that sequence at the very end of the movie as well. You see a little bit because it goes full circle basically, and then it comes up earlier tonight, and then you go back to so it's Halloween night. The streets are filled with kids trick or treating, and then when you go into the town, it's full of people dressed up having a party. Very much a kind of masquerade stroke. Just a big party is what you'd get on the street.
Small town America Halloween town party. Yeah,
exactly.
Then we've got the girls in the dressing room.
So you do see. Are they the first people you see?
You see, I think as you're going through, you see the wee boy, the victim of the teacher. You see him first knocking over the pumpkins.
Yes.
You see him kind of going down the street.
That's right. He's banging over the pumpkins and stuff, and then you. So we'll talk about the stories individually rather than trying to see who comes first and whatever, because I can't quite remember who. It all
starts to kind of weave, but I remember it goes. The girls appear briefly first. They're buying their costumes and they're sort of inviting boys out to this forest party, and they're saying to Little Red Riding Hood that she needs to find a man, and she's like, oh well, I can't just pick anybody. I'm like, of course you can, because they just managed to grab guys willy-nilly. They managed to just seem to snap 3 guys up at the one time, but it's like, no, it's my first time, I want it to be special. Of course, implying, we're all kind of like, oh, she's the virgin character, she's trying to find the special first somebody,
which is not the most believable thing anyway, because she's a beautiful girl, obviously. I suppose she's in her early 20s,
and it's sort of, it's obviously the kind of the horror trope is the virgin-esque character trope. Who, will she keep her purity to prevail through the film, or will she not? Is sort of the automatic assumption with it.
Yeah. And the other girls are like, oh, just come on, I'll be fine. Sort of obviously they're seasoned veterans. Yeah. And whatever. And I just love the whole sort of we're wearing our costumes.
Yeah.
Because obviously they are wearing costumes. They're wearing, like, one is dressed as Cinderella, the other is dressed as Snow White, and she's
Cinderella, Snow White, Little Red Riding Hood, and what was the third one?
I can't remember. Is it maybe Belle? No, I can't remember.
I think it is another like princess character, but I can't even think.
And they refer to their costumes a couple of times in that opening scene. And remember the wee guy? There's a wee boy running around. He looks in.
Yes.
And they're talking about losing their virginity or whatever, and the mother knocks in and is like, "There's children here." That is actually the actor who plays Sam as well.
Oh, okay.
That wee kid. The wee kid.
Oh, okay, very good.
I can't remember his name, but he's in Sam's costume for the scenes that he has to kind of run around and be in costume.
Very cool.
So do you want to continue on then?
So they go from, she goes off to find a man, then she's trying to find her special someone. And then we go back to the wee boy who's knocking over the pumpkins, and he goes up to the house, and there's a sign saying, I'll be right back, take one piece of candy. And he ends up trying to just scooping the whole bowl into his bag, which, see the way he was dragging, he's just got like a white pillowcase full of candy, but he's like drag it on the floor, and it's getting pure filthy, and that turned me.
Aye.
It was like, you're going to be eating that later, and you're dragging it through all the dirt of the day. Like, pick it up, you dirty wee bastard.
dirty boy.
Bastard.
You dirty little fucker.
I swear, turned me.
He's a wee chubby boy, wasn't he? And he had like curly red hair, and didn't he have curly red hair? Am I right? Yeah.
He had curly blonde hair, because I'm not 100% sure, but I think it might have been the same actor that was in Bad Santa. I think it might have been the wee boy from Bad Santa. Right. I'm not 100% sure though, but maybe
he did look kind of familiar.
I think it might have been him, but if not, I'm wrong. But
so
I'm not
you get so you have the girl story, and then you get sort of slowly pushed into this other story where this wee boy is obviously a bit of an arsehole, and he goes to the door of.
It's his T-shirt. He's got "This is my costume" T-shirt on.
He goes to the door of the teacher.
The
principal, played by Dylan Baker, who seems really nice. Like, he's just, oh hey, And then obviously,
but he's like kind of it's the whole thing because what is it? The kid notices on his way up the stairs that there's a pumpkin half carved, and it's got the knife still in it.
mm-hmm.
And he's kind of like, you can tell he's a bit like that's kind of weird, but he's about to take candy, and then the principal comes up behind him. And he's like, "Oh, I was just away, getting knives, carving all those pumpkins, made them blunt, but it's the way he like whips the knife out really kind of fast and right in the wee boy's face." And he sits down beside him, and he's just sort of chatting to him, as you say, being all nice and nice. And he's like, "Oh, why didn't you take some more? Why didn't you eat some?" Encouraging him to have the candy. And then that's when you get the old urban legend of tainted sweets.
Always check your candy.
Always check your candies.
So the main thing of the whole story, the whole film, is that there's rules to Halloween, and we actually forgot to mention it opens up with like a safety film, like an old school safety film that you would have got back in almost like the war times, where it was like, don't cross the road without looking both ways and all that type of thing, and the rules are
a PSA.
PSA, of course, yeah, and
PSA.
The whole thing about these stories is that the rules of Halloween are broken at certain parts of these stories, and this is what the whole thing is about this film. And again, it's not something that's super obvious straight away, but by the end of it, you're kind of like, oh fuck yeah, that's of course, that's why that happened, because the rules were broken.
Yep.
And it becomes obvious in the very last scene, or the last story.
Yeah.
So this principal starts feeding the kid candy, and then you start realizing that something's up here, because the kid bokes everywhere, isn't he? He's like fucking.
He just bokes all down the stairs, yeah, and it's like chocolate soup. It reminded me the scene from Stand By Me with Lardass,
yes,
all over at the pie contest. It's that same kind of just projectile vomiting down the stairs, and obviously the principal's kind of like, oh, you know what they say about checking your candy. He kind of then does the whole he explains the rule to him, and then he drags him into the house, and he's got all the like bloody chocolate mess down his shirt, and then some kids come to the house, and he's got to like drop the body and answer the door, and the kids scream.
The kids that come to the house are the other trick-or-treaters that have a story as well, which you find out later on what their story is, but they straight away you're introduced basically to the kind of main three stories, and shortly after that you're introduced to the fourth story as well, which is his next door neighbor. But so his story is basically that he has poisoned this child, but he's trying to hide it from his kid. So you're like, what the hell's going on? This is weird, because his kid's upstairs, and you find out later that he's digging a grave, isn't he? And the kid's looking out.
The kid his son shouts out to him. Billy shouts out to him, and he's like, "Go back inside, Billy." He's like, "Stop talking." Is the bit he starts like kind of taking the piss out of the kid, and he's just like, "What is it? Come and help me carve pumpkin, Daddy. I miss Mommy, Daddy."
I know.
She's like, "What are you being a dick about your weighing for?"
Because you're then thinking, "Fuck, he's going to go and kill his own kid here," because he's getting angry.
But he's already killed two kids, because that's the thing when Brian Cox's character comes over to the fence, he's one of the bodies starts moving again, and he's trying to like kick it. He's trying to kick it quiet, and Brian Cox is like, "What you got back there, bodies?"
No. But you think it's the same kid initially, and then you realize, oh, this isn't the same kid, because the kid in the grave is wearing like a clown outfit. Which you then see later on. You see the other kids go to the house, and you're like, oh, that's the fucking kid that the guy's killed.
There's so much crossover between sort of characters or wee things that you notice like that. So because what is it? He's thrown the fat blonde kid's body on top of the clown body, and I think that's what wakes the clown body up, and he starts moving, and he's trying to like kick them quiet and bury them again. Brian Cox's dog disturbs him first, so he pulls off one of the body's fingers and throws it into the garden. and then Brian Cox comes out, and he's what was he? He's like, "Tell your kid to stop coming to my yard."
I know.
Weirdo.
Which is a kind of throwaway line that you don't really think about until
Later.
His story, and then
Uh-huh.
you find out his story. But we're getting too far ahead of ourselves here,
We are
because
always.
we'll go back to the girls, and we'll just kind of talk about their story. Obviously, they go to the street party, and they're looking for guys, and they're going to a secret party.
Yep.
And three of the girls who aren't virgins have already got guys, and they've decided to go ahead. And Anna Paquin's character has decided to hang back and try to find the right man to take with her to the secret party in the woods.
Yep.
And so she's hanging about trying to find the right man, and I've just realised that we can't go any further with that story until we talk about the other story as well.
Until we talk about the dad, because
the teacher.
He has a bit where his son's obviously shouting down to him saying, "Oh, can we carve pumpkins?" And he's like, "Yes, I'll come in and help you carve pumpkins in a minute once I've sorted out this what was it? He blames it on septic tank. He's like, I need to fix the septic tank."
Oh,
that's his
yes,
excuse for being in a hole in the garden. So he's explained that, and then Billy shouts out to him again. He's like, "Oh, can we go and see the fireworks later?" And the teacher goes, "No, I've got a date later. Daddy has a date later."
Yeah.
Which again, at the time, is a bit of a throwaway line until we get to see later on. One of the other stories. But then the dad goes back inside then, and Billy's like, "Oh, will you come and help me carve pumpkins?" And he's like, "Sure thing, Billy." But as they're walking down the stairs, he grabs a knife off the counter and hides it behind his back, which again, you're automatically going, "Oh, he's going to kill the son." But then they get down there, and then the son picks up like a pumpkin carving knife and starts to hear him dig it into what you assume is a pumpkin, because you kind of get like a squish, but then there's kind of like a hard noise to it. And then the dad kind of pulls the knife out from behind his back and raises it up, but then gets down low and then sticks it into the pumpkin, which is actually the little blonde boy's head.
Yeah, he's cut his head off.
Like, what the fuck? There's like this father-son bonding moment over carving a dead child's head.
Yeah,
which there was a lot of child murder and like child, the story that then comes next with the three trick-or-treaters were at his house before. Again, we kind of get this story about children being killed.
I think the story about the principal and the girls we'll talk about, because they do join together quite a bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of crossover.
So we'll stick with those two first, because the trick-or-treaters we can talk about kind of separately.
Yeah,
a little bit, and Sam as well. We can talk about Sam separately as well. But so the dad goes out on the date, and
we don't actually. It kind of, when it cuts away from that moment, the father-son moment, we then get to the street party again. Or no, we obviously get those trick-or-treaters story, but we'll jump to the next part, which is where we see the street party, and there's a woman in an alleyway, and she's making out with a man with a mask on, and he's kissing her, and then he starts kissing her neck, but then you start to notice blood running down her neck.
Aye.
And she's kind of twigged on, "Oh wait, this fella's actually like biting me," and he's drawing blood and runs off and runs into the crowd, and she's asking for help, but everyone's just like, it's Halloween.
Oh, you've got blood. Oh, it must be fake blood.
Exactly, because there's a load of people standing around with like fake gashes and stuff. So everyone just assumes that it's part of the fun. And then this mysterious masked character appears again in front of her and throws his cape up and implies that they disappear away. And then we go to Little Red Riding Hood, who is now going along the street trying to, interact with men, but every man she goes to interact with is taken.
Well, just the implication is that this guy potentially could be a vampire.
Yes, of course.
Because you see the fangs and stuff. So that's, just before we go any further, that's the implication.
Yeah.
But so go ahead.
So she's trying to find her perfect man, and every man she goes up to speak to, another woman ends up coming over and taking him away, and she's like, oh no, for me.
Oh no.
Oh no, that's just awful bad.
How hard is it to lose your fucking virginity on Halloween night?
Exactly. And then what was it? She ends up, as she's walking along, she catches the eye of our vampire character in his mask, and it's kind of, I think it's very sort of heavily implied that he's doing the whole kind of vampirish charm sort of thing on her. And she's kind of like, oh, I think I found the one here, and I think she goes off. she goes to go off, I think, or he disappears. Is it?
Well, they make eye contact,
Yes, they
and
make eye.
it's a thing where he is obviously lusting after her, and she kind of just goes and walks away,
Yeah.
and then it's again the implication is that he's following her, stalking her, so
her, yeah.
she's going to be the next victim, type thing. So you're the whole time you're thinking, oh, he's a killer of some, he's a vampire of some kind, or a killer, and he's going to now kill this innocent girl who just wants to get laid.
Yep.
But and then they go back to the forest where she's going to meet her sister and the other two girls, and she gets attacked by your man.
Yep.
And you're like, oh god, she's going to die before she loses her virginity and and all this sort of stuff. And then it cuts back to the girls.
Yep, they're all partying in the woods.
Yeah, and there's loads of drunk guys and stuff, and yeah, and
then this body comes flying through the trees and hits a tree and lands on the ground. And he's like lying like this wee crumpled mess, like help me. And they pull the mask away from him, and it's the principal.
It's your man. It's the principal. It's the vampire.
Yep. When they pull off that mask and it was him, I was like, what?
Did you not know? No, did you not know?
No, I had not a clue. I had not a notion when that reveal happened. I was just like, what the fuck? And then they pull out the fangs, and she's like, very good.
Very good.
You know, and you're kind of like, what is going on
I
here?
know. Because it doesn't affect them. They're just taking it on the chin like it's normal. And then obviously Little Red Riding Hood comes out behind them. Yeah. And she's very, very confident. And then she explains that she lured this man in the whole time because she was playing hard to get, and that's what they mentioned at the start of the movie. And she was like, I've been playing hard to get tonight, and she obviously lured this stalker in, and he's fucking dying, and you're still going, what is going on here? What's happening? Yep. Obviously these girls aren't who they say they are. There's something else going on. No. And then she jumps on the guy, very sexually, as if she's going to kind of straddle him. And then you get that fucking unreal reveal where it's like they all take their fucking skin off and they're all fucking werewolves.
Yeah, it's because they kind of do it slowly though as well. So they like take the costumes off first, and you're kind of like, right, okay, sexy witches. But then they start to pull the skin off as well.
I love how obviously at some point, if you're really, really smart, at some point you're going, right, these aren't just normal girls, there's something going on. And then even they don't just give it to you straight away. They wait a little while, and yes, you kind of do think, okay, they're witches, or they're doing some sort of sacrifice.
Witches.
Yeah, sexy witches.
Sexy witches.
So you're thinking they're going to do some sort of sacrifice here, and then at no point when I first watched this movie did I fucking think they were werewolves.
That was when the skin came off and they started to get the snouts and all and the howling and stuff. I was like, what the fuck?
I know. But I thought it was fucking really well done. It was really well timed. It was very good editing, and the werewolves looked awesome. It was kind of it was CGI, but obviously it was CGI, but it was like they were definitely wearing suits, weren't they?
I think there was one point where they maybe had like a head, puppet head.
They definitely had some sort of puppets and suits, and they mixed it well in with the CGI, and I thought it was fucking great.
So good.
And it's even better because when the reveal happens and the twist happens, you go, oh, of course they were fucking werewolves. Yep. Fresh meat. They wanted fresh meat. Meat. She's wearing Little Red Riding Hood. They were talking about their costumes, which is their skin, not the actual clothes that they're wearing. They're talking about being virgins. They want the first, she wants her first man. It's the first kill that she's getting. It's really well done.
And as you said, there's the whole reference to the Three Little Pigs as well. You get a Three Little Pigs reference in there at one point, and
so good, really well done, and it kind of ties up both stories because obviously they kill the principal as well, who has murdered children on this night, and has also murdered a woman in the alleyway, and was going to murder Little Red Riding Hood's character. So
they do get. I think there's a wonderful point later on, just before you get into Brian Cox's story, where you see the camera kind of pans across to his house, but you go past the principal's house first, and you see the son, and the son's sitting on the doorstep wearing a costume of his father's outfit at the start of his story, with the blood all down the shirt. And I'm kind of like,
that's right.
I'm like, is this, it's obvious. I feel it's obviously going to symbolize that he is becoming his father, because him and his father both partook in, killing and mutilating the head of that boy. That was the son's transition into becoming his father, the killer. And I thought that was great, just that we kind of nod to being like, yes, his father's dead now, but his son will now take up the mantle of Halloween killer.
It's brilliant how they connect both the stories, and there's a connection to Brian Cox's story as well, because that happens before all of this. Whenever the principal is digging the bodies and Brian Cox first comes out, we go back to that when we're following his story.
Yes.
And he starts to hear noises, and obviously someone's in his garden, and he thinks it's his kid, and he says, "Don't let your kid come into my garden again." He's a real grumpy old man who obviously hates people. But that's whenever you see Sam for the first time, or not for the first time, but
not for the first time. Yeah, he's been.
That's whenever Sam has more presence on screen, and you actually see him do something.
You see him. He's always sort of he sort of appears as a signal that the stories have kind of come to an end. He's always usually sitting like in a log on the background or something, but that I feel like that was him. His presence there was kind of to signal, right, this story's coming to an end. We're going into something else. And he's kind of, the impression I got with Sam is, yes, he's the spirit of Halloween, but he's also kind of the spirit of death on Halloween.
He's like the Grim Reaper type.
Yeah.
He's almost like, right, I have to be here to witness the acts that's going to happen. But yeah, because he's in all stories. At some point you see him in all 4 stories.
Yeah, he's sitting on a log when the werewolves have their feast, and then he's sitting at the top of the quarry at the end of the trick-or-treaters story. Yeah. And then...
Where is he in the... Obviously, well, I suppose that he's both of those stories connect.
They
the
tie
principal
together.
and... But yeah, he's omnipotent. He's the spirit of Halloween. He's supernatural, obviously. He's the rules of Halloween. He's there to make sure that the rules are kept, and that you don't break the rules or you die, basically.
Yeah, he's sort of, he's obviously that childish spirit of Halloween, but he's also, he's a jack-o'-lantern, he's a scarecrow. He combines all those things. So he's got his bag of candy with him, which he can also double as a weapon. The candy bar blade that he has, and obviously that's a play on the old urban legend of razor blades and the candy and stuff. And there is that kind of childishness about that character as well. When obviously you get into Brian Cox's story, how Sam is ultimately defeated by Brian Cox is by appealing to the child in him. And appealing to the treat aspect of trick or treat,
accidentally as well.
Accidentally,
we might say. So Sam is he's a small person. I won't say he's a child because he's not a child, but it's obviously a child that's acting him. But he's running around, he's terrorizing Brian Cox, and he's trying to kill Brian Cox. And you realise that Sam can't be killed because he loses a hand. And all these things happens to him, and
he gets shot in the head, and he gets his head shot, and he gets his hand cut off. And
when he loses the sack, you see he has a jack-o'-lantern. It's like, fuck, that's such a cool wee puppet. Like, it's so cool. And then at the very end, when you think Brian Cox is done, he's dead. Sam is going to go up and kill him. He goes to stab him with the lollipop, and then he's actually stabbed a candy bar.
A piece of candy.
A piece of candy.
Oh, piece of candy.
And so he takes it, and he's been given it as a gift accidentally by Brian Cox. He's been given a treat on Halloween night. He's been treated. So, and he's like, "Oh, right, fair enough. I've got candy. You followed the rules. You've given me some candy. So now I'm going to let you live, and I'm going to leave your house."
Which is why Sam came in the first place, because Brian Cox refused to give trick-or-treaters candy.
Exactly. And just prior to that scene, you seen that he had written a lot of stuff on the walls. It was like, "Give me treats," and stuff. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Trick or treat, smell my feet, give me something good to eat. He'd written that in blood, because you hear the dog runs upstairs after Sam, and you hear the dog bark, 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 and then whine.
I wasn't going to mention that.
And then silence. So I assume, no, you don't see the dog's body, but I assume the blood is the dog's.
Yeah, I think that's
the worst part.
I didn't want to mention that. But you went ahead and fucking did it anyway, Danny. I know.
Sorry.
Somewhere out there that it was a wee Jack Russell, wasn't it?
It was a wee Jack Russell called. What was he called?
It's like a typical Jack Russell name, like Rex. No, or something.
Because it was something. It was. I thought it was one thing, and then it was like, no, it's actually. That's going to annoy me that I can't remember.
Oh well, doesn't matter.
No, it does.
The dog didn't die, Danny. The dog is living on a tropical island somewhere, getting fed treats.
He's on the farm, the big farm.
What's the farm called that all those dogs get sent away to?
Happy Farm.
The happy farm with beautiful meadows and loads of other dogs running around.
Happy puppies everywhere.
Happy dogs.
Happy doggos.
Yeah, so Brian Cox actually survives that one.
Yes.
And then that leads you into the very final scene, which is actually the very first scene that you see. But we did skip a story there because the third story is about the trick-or-treaters that only really connect with the other stories through them trick-or-treating. They don't really connect. What's the dog's name?
The dog is called, so I thought when I was first at the start, I thought he kept saying Spike, but the dog is not called Spike, it is called Spite.
Spite?
Spite.
Really?
Yep.
I did not think that. I did not think that.
But the dog's actual name is Zip. The dog that played Spite is called Zip.
Fair play to Zip.
Which is a good name for a doggo.
It's a good name for a doggo. Yeah. Good pupper.
Good puppers. We love them. Good puppers.
So yeah, the third story was the trick-or-treaters. So there's 4 trick-or-treaters. Well, there's 3 actually. And they don't really come into the story until a good bit into the film. You just think they're just innocent trick-or-treaters that are going around all the house, and then you realise that they've got something going on too.
Yeah, they say, because what is it, when they knock on the principal's door to trick-or-treat, they ask, they're like Principal McCready or whatever he's called. They're like, can we have one of your jack-o'-lanterns for an Oxfam drive they're doing? Mm-hmm. Was it they must have to collect jack-o'-lanterns for a trick-or-treat treasure hunt or something for Oxfam. So they're collecting these jack-o'-lanterns, and again, for ages you just assume that that's what it's for.
Yeah.
Until later on, it kind of gets explained then what they have to collect was 8 jack-o'-lanterns. They have to get 8 jack-o'-lanterns, and they go to the wee girl's house to bring her along. Then
yeah, so this whole story is kind of the whole thing where kids befriend a child or somebody that they see as being retarded is the word that they use.
Is the word.
What's her name? It's something the retard, isn't it? That's what they call her.
Something, yeah.
I can't even remember what they call her. Rhonda the retard. That's it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and you know this before you meet her, so you obviously know, right? They're stringing this girl along for something, and they take her out, and they get all these pumpkins, and they go down, and one of the girls starts telling the story, an urban legend story about a bus driver who is driving mentally ill kids, but he's been paid off by their parents to basically kill them, drive them off a cliff.
Yep, get rid of their
which
burden.
Is fucking horrendous.
It's awful.
And it shows you sort of flashback scenes of this happening, and you see the kids, and they're all wearing masks, and they're all handcuffed, aren't they? Masks. Yeah, and it's just like, it's horrible. So the bus driver drives off the cliff, but mistakenly he is in the bus when it happens. So
one of the kids gets loose from his shackles and tries to drive the bus back home because he realized the bus driver doesn't take the same route, and he starts shouting wrong way.
That's it.
And then he's trying to take the bus back home, but obviously doesn't know how to put it in reverse because he's only a child, and ends up driving off the cliff into the quarry, where they meet their watery grave, and no one knows what happened to the bus driver. But it's kind of implied that the bus driver's still alive.
Well, it does show you a sort of flashback scene where he crawls out, and he survived, but all the other masks are still in the lake or the quarry.
Yep.
And the kids have died. The bus is still there. And so that's the urban legend. and these new kids in the modern day trick-or-treaters are going to visit this scene as a ritual type thing, and you find out that they're actually only doing it because they're playing a prank on this Rhonda girl, and it backfires.
Yep.
They go down in the elevator shaft, and then they have stuff waiting there where they put on like sort of masks and costumes, and they pretend to be the kids coming out of the quarry, and she starts freaking out, and then you realise that, oh, it's just the fucking kids playing a prank on her. So it's a horrible, horrible prank. That and of course there's always that one guy who's like, oh, I'm so sorry, we shouldn't have done this, and then you have the girl who's like
typical
the real
mean girl.
typical mean girl. It's kind of like Carrie.
Yeah.
The sort of Carrie story where, you know, where there's always a mean girl who has no remorse, and then, you know, there's always a few characters that, you know, feel bad because it was only meant to be a prank, and they realized we went way too far. Very, very elaborate prank. Like, they must have put a lot of work into that. Having all their costumes and all and everything down at the actual quarry,
and no one to go sort of two at a time, so they didn't overweigh the elevator down into the quarry. And
so anyway, Rhonda gets away, and the kids actually start coming up from the quarry, and she's like, oh, it's another prank she's playing, and she escapes the shaft, but the door's locked, and she won't unlock the door for them, so she leaves the kids behind. But I always kind of like that thing, where does she actually still think it's a prank, or is she just like, fuck you, you know?
I think it's the real.
Is that her Carrie moment?
Her whole because the most of the way through it, her face is real kind of like soft and gentle looking. You know, and obviously I think a part of that is playing up to the whole her name, you know, the horrible name they give her, but also just you know, she's going to be like this nice character who just who like knows all this interest in Halloween facts and stuff. But then at the end, when she's sitting in the elevator and they're like, oh, you know, if you give us the key, we can unlock it and let us in, and she just is like, she's just sitting with her jack-o'-lantern, which I assume is meant to be like her spirit. And she's just sat, and she just pushes the button and goes up, and then she walks past Sam on her way back home, which again is the kind of nod to be like, this is this story over now. But ultimately, we actually find out that story isn't really over.
Well,
the film.
But, there's a couple of wee things that tie together with. So the first two stories kind of tie together, and then the last two kind of tie together as well. But I did love that scene where she's walking away, and you just see Sam just sitting. He's just sort of swaying his legs, and you think, fuck, what's going to happen here? But he doesn't do anything. She just walks away. He's just sort of saying, yep, the story's over. You know, you've done what you've needed to do. She's followed the rules, I suppose, to the story. And then how that ties in with Brian Cox's story is that another massive fucking reveal is that Brian Cox is actually the bus driver from the urban legend.
I like that, again, that story it doesn't immediately kind of happen. It's sort of because he's learned from Sam that he needs to give candy to the trick-or-treaters, so you see him giving candy to these trick-or-treaters, and Sam's standing at the side of the road watching him, as if to be like, I'm watching you, motherfucker. If you don't give them candy, I'm coming back. But then we actually see the couple from the start of the film returning home, and her blowing out the jack-o'-lantern candle as she did at the start, and that's Sam's attention is drawn away then, and he leaves, and then Brian Cox.
You get the wee Michael Myers POV, don't you? Through
the burlap sack, and then Brian Cox closes the door, and you get another wee knock at the door, and this time when he opens it, all the wee ghoulies, all the wee undead kids are standing at the door asking for candy, trick or treat. Then they all go in, and you hear Brian Cox trying to fight them off, and then the sound of like slashing and gore and all that stuff, and then the film ends.
He gets his comeuppance in the end, really, doesn't he? But there's a couple of little connections there as well. So Brian Cox, you see in the principal's story, as the principal's walking in the door, you see at the side Brian Cox is like screaming for help, which then you find out is when Sam, you see later on when Sam's attacking him. And then there's also one where is Rhonda not coming out of his house? So remember whenever they
pumpkin, jack-o'-lanterns, so
this is the one that I kind of the only kind of mystery or twist that I didn't really fully connect.
It's one that, it seems to be implied but never actually fully explained. Is that his daughter, or did he save one of the kids?
Is she real? Is she supernatural? Or
exactly, we never kind of get
was
any real
did
explanation.
did she know about the prank all along? And was this her prank? Was she doing this to lure the bodies out? Was she, what's her connection to Brian Cox's character? That's the kind of the only thing that's up in the air, I think, about this. And it's a good question, because I don't think there was a definitive answer to that. And anybody who has the answer, or if you have any opinions, please leave your comments. But that was the only thing that was up in the air, that they didn't fully answer that, which is brilliant, because we get to talk about it now. And I love movies that don't fully answer every single question, because it gives us the opportunity to discuss it. And this whole movie in itself is just one big twist. It really is. And I loved it, and I would happily watch it again. I try to get it every Halloween. I've watched it for the past few Halloweens. I actually only watched it for the first time a few years ago, and I think I've watched it every Halloween since, because it's just such a quintessential Halloween film.
Yeah. Well, I think it'll definitely be part of my repertoire now that I've finally sat and watched it.
Yeah.
As I said, I think I still prefer the likes of Creepshow and Tales from the Crypt.
Right.
And I do I think this film really draws on them for that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, as I said at the start, it's pure fun, pure sugar. It's just a big old lollipop.
It literally is a trick or treat. The whole movie is a trick, and it is a treat as well, because it's so well written. Really, it looks beautiful as well. It's filmed in obviously it's a fairly small budget. I think it was filmed in. It didn't take that long to film it, if you know what I mean. It was filmed over a very short period of time.
Yeah.
But
I actually read there when I was looking up Spite's name, the PSA at the start of the film wasn't actually intended to be in the film when they first made it. It was just meant to be as part of a promotional advertisement for the movie, but the director liked it that much, he decided to include it at the start of the film.
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh, that's nice.
I'd read that as well, actually. But I just think it's really well written. I think there's still lots of Easter eggs in there that I haven't discovered. And obviously you haven't discovered, because you've only watched it the one time. And I think there's going to be loads more cool Easter eggs and little things that I'm going to discover as I watch it more and more. Feel free to leave any comments below about other Easter eggs or other things that we've maybe left out here. But Trick or Treat, definitely one of my favourite Halloween films. It's going to be, as I said, a film I watch every single Halloween. Danny, thumbs up from you then?
Yep. Definitely. I'm going to imagine that I will go back to at some point, probably at Halloween this coming year.
I also wanted to give just Mike Dougherty a shout out as well, because he also directed Krampus, which is
I love Krampus. I do enjoy
fucking
Krampus.
Brilliant. And we're at that time of the year, so that could
be a little Krampus.
That could be one that we could be doing.
Gotta visit a little Krampus.
We'll definitely be doing a Christmas-inspired horror film in a couple of weeks, obviously. And Krampus is right up there as one of the best Christmas horror films for sure. But Michael Dougherty, amazing writer and director. Love Trick or Treat. Can't wait to watch it again, to be honest with you. So might go and do it. Might go and watch it now. Who knows? Might. Of course. I'm not going to watch it now. So so that's it. That's the episode done, dusted. Is there anything else you wanted to chat about Trick or Treat, or?
No. I think that is. I think we have spoken everything we need to spoke on that. We have been fully trick and treated. I
love. Obviously, we were talking about Sam being the essence of Halloween. Yes, the costume's amazing. I love seeing cosplayers cosplay as Sam, and obviously that's a play on Sam Hain, or the Sawian, or whatever the fuck way you pronounce it. What is the proper pronunciation? Because every time I go on to check it out, it's different pronunciation of like Samhain, as in the Halloween festival, or Sawian.
I don't know.
It's supposed to be short for that, which is obviously the original festival, the original Celtic festival that happened on All Halloween's Eve, or All Hallows Eve.
All Hallows Eve.
All Hallows. Ooh, that's very spooky.
Ooh.
You've got a wee
Did you
echoey
like
thing
that?
going on. Aye. Fucking Vincent Price here. I really enjoyed talking about Trick or Treat. Wanted to do it last season, didn't get a chance to do it because we were so busy interviewing like screen icons like Dee Wallace and stuff like that.
Of course.
And future screen icons like Emma, Louise Webb, and Jed and stuff like that. So we're so busy these days we can't even fit our episodes in. So, and by the way, if you haven't seen those episodes, go back on our YouTube, check them out, leave some comments, share them with your horror friends.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Hashtag hit that bell icon.
Hit that bell icon. Get the notifications. No, seriously, subscribe if you
Please
can.
do.
Cheers, we appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
So follow us on Twitter and Instagram and all that sort of stuff. We'll be back next week with another episode of Monday Night Frights. We're not telling you what it is because we don't actually know yet. I'm joking.
I was going to say, do we?
Well,
we do.
Of course we do. We're that organised.
We have a whole lineup.
We do. Well, we kind of have a provisional lineup that we've discussed, which definitely will not be the final lineup. Let's be honest.
No. But there's some exciting ones. There's some stuff.
Yeah, we're going to have. Hopefully, we'll maybe have a new face in chatting about stuff at some point. They probably won't be famous, but you never know.
Never know.
If we get lucky,
we'll do try.
We're still going to try and get Robert Englund on. That's our
dream.
That's our main goal. Robert Englund or one of the big
Bruce Campbell.
One of the big get the chin on. Yes.
Oh my god! Imagine we got Bruce Campbell. You'd have to do all the talking. I'd just be sitting here.
I wouldn't be able to talk if we were talking to Bruce Campbell.
No. He'd just have to chat and we'd just stare at him.
I'd just be like, yeah. You chat, do whatever you want to do.
Danny, please stop making that high pitched noise. I'm sitting here like.
I know the chin, but yeah. So we're back next week with another episode of Monday Night Frights. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And we'll check you out next week. Take care. See you later.
Bye.